Hello, everyone.
How's my audio?
Hello, good. Hello, everybody.
Hey, Warren. Give a few minutes for people to continue to join. As you join, if you're willing, please share video and audio. We want to treat this as as close to an in-person meeting as we can. Do remember that the meeting is being recorded and will appear on YouTube later. Our join rate is still fairly high, so let's wait a moment more. All right, I think it started to slow, so we'll go ahead and get started. Thanks everyone for taking time out of their day to participate in these conversations. They're very valuable for the tools team. It's our intent to make sure that we are focusing on the places that are most effective for the community, and this is one of the best tools that we have for ensuring that we're doing so. Does everyone should have access to the notes page that we're using for the agenda, and it will be the minutes for the meeting when we're done. Does anyone have any bashes for the agenda as presented currently on that page? Right? Not hearing anything. Again, if anybody has anything to contribute, please just jump in. Unless we get into a very heated discussion, I don't think there's any need to use the queuing system. Just start talking. It'll be fine. If we need to change that, I'll say so. All right. So I'm going to start in with our current infrastructure transition work and the planning for the immediate future. The Mailman 3 transition is still in progress. The main part has not been executed. Each time we get close to that transition, we discover more complications that need to be worked out. The current plan is to make that transition shortly after April 12th. So at the end of this week, the beginning part of next week. And I will send a note out if something causes us to defer beyond that point. But it's the current expectation that we actually have it in hand this time and that it will proceed. This is one of the larger projects that Sirius is taking on for us, and they're been in the middle of it for quite some time. We've been transitioning many services since IETF 119. The IEB's website, the notes service, bib, and analytics have successfully transitioned. We have some follow-up for the IEB website that transitioned late last week, so we can improve future deploys of it. We have our mail relay set up so that new applications that are in this cloud infrastructure can send mail to this mail relay. The mail relay is currently submitting mail through IETFA. When we move to the new mail processing system deployed at Amazon, it will we'll just have to change how that mail relay is configured and not have to adjust the settings for each of the individual applications involved. So we've got that widget point to simplify the deploy of the various things that are having to submit mail. We have been moving several smaller things, particular things like the private wikis, into DigitalOcean. All of them have been moved at this point, including creating an empty one for the IAB's private wiki to transition into the Secretariat. I think Liz will primarily be doing the lifting. We'll manually transfer content from the existing media wiki into that wiki.js instance. There are several older web services that we want to continue to provide, but we're providing them with a completely different technology at this point. There was a couple of examples that are in the notes. The jabber.ietf.org service now just redirects to a front end that we have on top of a blob store inside Cloudflare. You can follow those links and see what the redirects do. We have things set up to where there is an data tracker aware OIDC interface in front of the parts of this blob store that we want to serve. If we, for any reason, want to do role-based restrictions or just have an account-based restrictions, which we've done for a couple of these things, it's fairly easy for us to do so. The mail processing chain's largest challenge at the moment is figuring out when we move our mail processing into the cloud. Our biggest challenge at the moment is how we're going to be submitting mail to the internet. The current plan is to do that through Amazon's simple email service. The folks at Sirius are engaging with Amazon to get access to that product, get it started, and start warming it so that when we transition, we won't be fighting a decrease in reputation, at least not a sudden decrease in reputation. So.
Yeah, Robert, I mean, people I know have had very mixed success with SES. Some people say it's fine. Some people say it's awful. So it's probably worth keeping in mind that we might need a backup plan if things are bad.
Yep, thank you. Yeah, I am a little bit twitchy about it, but Sirius feels fairly confident that they'll be able to make it work for us. Yeah, we have a lot of work on the larger applications moving into staging in this new infrastructure. We expect an instance of the data tracker to be in staging this week. We expect an instance of the mail archive to be in, if not this week, then next week. Ryan, even though he was traveling, put a lot of effort into preparing the mail archive so that we could have a development deployment go into this staging instance in this time frame. We should yeah, there'll be a lot of proving of the efficacy of the infrastructure at that point. We're expecting to get a lot of feedback on performance from these test instances, and we'll be adjusting our deployment plan based on what we learn once those are up. We've added a lot of instrumentation as we've been moving things into the cloud. I'm taking things a little bit out of order here. We've got a much nicer view using the Grafani universe into how things are behaving. That's primarily an internal view. We've also started an external high-level status page at status.ietf.org. We'll be refining its efficacy as we move forward to make sure that it's not reporting on that everything's fine just because caching is good, that it's actually looking down into the parts of the infrastructure that might be broken and report if it is broken. And it also gives us an opportunity to have a quick place to say, yes, we know the following things are affected. And once we have this at a point where we are fairly comfortable that it's good, we'll advertise it more widely, add links to the data tracker, things like that, so that the community starts to learn to look there when something looks like it might be a little bit off to them. We'll be transitioning the primary ticketing system for the Secretariat, RT5, to a hosted service at the organization that is responsible for maintaining RT5 tomorrow, if everything goes well. We'll also be moving the RPC's production machine, which is the source, the origin for rfceditor.org, into DigitalOcean sometime later this month. That project's been underway for 2 weeks, on the order of 2 weeks at this point, and the application testing is basically complete. We have a few more infrastructure tests and configurations, things like making sure it can send email the way we want it to send email when we switch over to that instance for production. And then we should be moving the RPC to work on that machine at that time. All right, that was a long set of things that I read through, and I thank you, John, for the comment that you made. Were there any other comments or questions about the things that we have in flight for this infrastructure transition?
I do think it's always useful if Mark, you want to say anything, or after that, Margaret wants to say anything at this point.
I'd be more than happy to, Jay. And I think the first thing I should address is the point that John has made, which is real. I completely agree with that. What I can say, there are no guarantees in life, but we're taking it very, very seriously indeed. We're aware of the feedback or the mixed feedback that people have made on Amazon SES. We've also we have a lot of data on its use, especially in the mailman area. We work very closely with the core team. In fact, one of the main core team members is our lead on the project. He also works for us. And we've taken a lot of feedback from a lot of people, including some very large deployments indeed. The negative feedback we have had, we are working to minimize any chance of that happening in the infrastructure here. Very, very keen to warm up the IP addresses properly and to transfer IETF's existing excellent reputation over to it with DKIM and things like this. We're also taking precautions in the infrastructure. For example, we're warming up and running a couple of IP addresses. There are various things that IETF do and lists that they run, which we're highly confident on the reputation of. some of them which potentially have issues which could be raised by Amazon, we are hiving off to, at least in the short term, to a separate IP address. So, John, your point is very well made, but we are very cognizant of it, and we're taking all of the precautions that we can. We'll also be, well, long term, but certainly in the first few weeks, we are closely monitoring 24/7 what's going through that. We're aware of the kind of things which trigger Amazon, and we will be paying a special attention to those. We will have eyes on it literally 24/7, and we intend to get to anything before Amazon does. Anything else I should comment on? Please, if anyone wants me to specifically address any areas, but from memory, we are behind on what it was our intention to deliver, both the mail chain and Mailman 3, to which I can only say, first of all, sorry, it was not our intention to take longer, but also to reinforce what Robert was saying about it. There are a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of plumbing, there's a lot of archaeology and history in it, and we have addressed step by step at every stage of it anything that has come up, and there has been more than we expected, but we are very close, and we are confident we are going to get it into production for you and do the very best we can around it. I'm running out of things to say. If anyone's got any specific questions, please ask.
So for some of the people who have not joined calls recently, Mark is the lead and project manager for Sirius, who is taking responsibility for our email processing system. And we were also going to give Margaret an opportunity to say something, who's the lead for Painless Security, who is taking responsibility for the core IT infrastructure that we'll be running our applications on top of.
I don't have a lot to say that Robert hasn't already said. We have several applications up and running. They're running well, as far as we can tell. We are continually working on the next one. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to attempt to answer them.
All right. Thank you. And we'll go ahead and move into some of the next sections. We've had a sort of a stalled feature branch at Feet Clarity, which is the data tracker enhancement that will put an additional banner on data tracker pages about on drafts or RFCs that did not come from the IETF stream, saying that they did not come from the IETF stream in words that are more accessible to people who don't know what the IETF stream, what being in the IETF stream means. You can look at the branch at the dtclarity.dev.ietf.org test deploy, which will be updated later this week to remove the current link that it has to Warren's draft as an example of something that's not in the IETF stream. And after that is shaken, we will merge it into main and release it into production. And these banners will start appearing for the world at large. We are very close now to the point of turning down several older instances of websites and applications relying on their having been captured at the Internet Archive for anybody that needed to return to look at them. I am basically waiting at this point on confirmation from Alexis that they have been that there's a reasonable probability that they've been captured. Alexis has been away for a little while and is just now back. So when I visit with her next, I hope to hear that we can just proceed, and those will then start redirecting into the Internet Archive. And this is www.6.ietf.org and www.ietf.org/old/2009 in particular. And this gets us to the point where I suggest that we take the remaining part of the agenda as read, unless there are questions or highlights that people who have been contributing to the notes want to call people's attention to. So it'll take a few minutes for people to have a chance to skim what's there. And if you are a contributor here and want to highlight a particular thing, just please jump in and do so. Or any questions, just jump in. I will call out while people are reading that we are painfully aware that a lot of our both bug fix and feature velocity on our primary applications is lower than what the community has become used to. We have all been focusing on this IT infrastructure transition for the last several months, and it shows in the lack of speed of changes to the data tracker and to the RPC modernization project and other things like that. The end of this transaction process is now becoming reasonably in sight. As you heard from a little bit earlier, there are still unknowns as we're proving the efficacy of the fabric for the larger applications and for the mail processing chain. But we fully intend to bring all of this to a close and get back to maintenance and management of the applications themselves in the next very small, count them on one hand is the intent, maybe one hand and a finger number of weeks. So, all right, I'm not hearing people jumping in with questions about anything that is in the notes. Any other business? Anything anyone wants to discuss?
I think we should give a bit more of an update about the website, just so that people are aware of this. Greg is away today, so he's not able to do this, but we have have a major change to the website that's about to be released. The biggest thing is a redo of the menu structure and the menu interface. So we have mega menus coming in that will enable us to have a much higher density, more modern menu interface. And this will also remove some of the enforced linkages that we have between the menu structure and the page structure on disk, and give us more flexibility around that. So this is and there will also be some style changes as underneath it as well. So that's the main set of things. Kasara, did you want to add anything to what's going to take place there?
No, I don't have to add anything more.
Okay, great. So so this is due to go live tomorrow evening UTC, roughly. Anybody have any questions or any concerns about this at all? Okay, great. So when it's up, that's if you have any problems, then of course you can let us know. But perfect. Thank you. Thanks, Robert.
So one thing that I wanted to bring up under any other business, there are a large number of improvements that we can make to mail that we're sending to make it more likely that people using various verticals will receive the mail without a great deal of trouble. There are improvements to how the applications are signing messages. We have several places where applications are not signing messages as they're sending mail at the moment. We can make improvements into what the signatures are saying about the domains that are involved in the mail that is moving through. I expect to pull together people that are well-versed and particularly effective with these things, like John. I might call in Taro and have a conversation about the kinds of improvements that we can make in the long run, and as we're working with Sirius on the new mail chain once it's deployed. All right. Well, unless someone has something else they'd like to discuss, I think that we're done. Thank you again for taking the time to have this interaction. And I look forward to seeing you online as we move forward. I apologize for not having this particular interim in the data tracker until very recently. That's entirely my fault. I got caught by the meeting at 1:19. I have already put the 2 after this one in, and we'll put ones further than that in around the time of the next one when we have insight into what's going to be happening with the summer. All right. Thanks, everyone, and we'll see you soon.